If you're running a $5 million business and you think you just need more sales to get to 10 million, you're dead wrong. In fact, that's one of the biggest mistakes that keeps owners at this stage. They just try to do more of what they're already doing. I've worked with dozens of owners in this exact spot. They're successful on paper, but they're frustrated because growth is stalled. Today, I'll show you the 3 biggest scaling mistakes and how exactly to fix them. So welcome back to another episode of Chad T Podcast, the show for business owners that have businesses 1 million to 6 million that want to grow up to 12 million. I'm your host, Chad Tabry. Let's get into it. The good news is, if your business is already doing 5 to 6 million, you've already shown that you know how to win. But here's the ugly truth. The same habits that got you there are not going to get you in that $10 to $12 million range. Most owners at this level think if I just push harder, if I just press on, I'll finally break through that plateau and I'll finally solve these revenue issues. It's wrong. I've seen the burnout time and again. These guys get trapped in this sort of I don't know, it's a mental block or something. So today we're going to go through the big 3, why most guys get stuck, why they never hit that $10 to $12 million range. And the $10 to $12 million range is big, right? Because now you can hire a bunch more staff to specialize in certain things and actually break through the whole people process issue and scale yourself into that 12. And really, if you're trying to go this big, into that 12 to 24. Mistake number 1 is a common one. Businesses naturally assume if I sell more, I'll make more money. The problem is you have diminishing returns on a lot of these things. So like a cleaning service I talked with recently in Jacksonville, if he just got more clients, he'd make more money, right? Well, how is he going to fulfill it? Or is he spending too much on each client? Or is he charging enough for each client? It's just not as simple as if I get more sales, I'll grow to $12 million. The main point here is when you're doubling down on your marketing or your lead generation or your sales, that extra sales or those extra leads, which everyone says, oh, isn't that a great problem to have? They expose your weaknesses. They expose the things that you're doing poorly right now and I call them hidden pain points. All the hidden pain points of the company start to crumble and crack. And then a dangerous move here in all these transition points really is then you start failing the customers that got you from that $1 million to $5 million range, and they're not coming back. So these little transitional areas are key for you to think strategically as a leader and lean back on the vision and principles that you run your business on so that you don't crumble really under the weight of your own success. You have to make sure that the legs are there set up to help you get to that next level. So my big encouragement in this one is to shift your focus from top line revenue when you're at this $5 million mark. And again, I talk with a lot of businesses. I normally focus on 1 million to 6 million. Most of their goal is to get to 12 million. But I was talking to $1 million industrial lighting company. He wanted to get to $5 million. And this would be similar advice. It's in his scalability. It'd be more valuable for him and for you at this point to let top line revenue alone for just a minute. Let the guys keep doing what's working. Don't break anything, but spend a tremendous amount of time, like 1 quarter to 2 quarters, on figuring out your operations. That's the people, the processes, and systems. And really, I like to reverse that. So it's the systems, the people running those systems, and then the processes you put around that, and really analyze those and make sure you're not paying double for 2 ERPs. That's a common one I see. Or, some people have a $100,000 bill for Salesforce.com and like a $50,000 or $60,000 bill for HubSpot. So there's a lot of waste when you've been scrambling to get from that nothing really, the nothing to $1 million, and then that 1 million to 5 million. So the first big fix is to stop. Don't get a bigger bat and try to just smash watermelons like who was that comic back in from the 80s that would splatter watermelon all over people's faces? So that'll come back to me here in a minute. So don't try to smash more watermelons. Like, let's make sure we swap out our mallet maybe for a precision knife or a chainsaw. Does that make sense? And also a common pushback here is guys will say, all right, well, I don't want to betray my team. I don't want to AI's topical right now, so I don't want to replace my whole staff with AI. Well, I'm not saying replace your staff. And again, I was in the military, well, honestly, 18 and a half years, but 12 years active duty. And the people matter, and the people are first. You've got nothing without the people. But today, you don't have an operation without the systems. And unfortunately, we moved away from a tech environment where we use the systems and more into a tech environment where the systems use us. We have to adapt to the systems. And I don't know, you can try to fight that, or you can just recognize it and then realize that you should pick appropriate systems first and then put the right people on those systems to monitor, to manage them. But my main point is, people push back here because they think that they're trying to systematize or automate people away. And I disagree. What you'll find is that your best talent will stay with you and they'll thrive within these systems. And the talent that was kind of you were dragging them along anyway, they're going to fall off. So a prime example is in the home services businesses. Most of the successful companies in that $1 million to $5 million range, they're running HVAC companies, plumbing companies, construction type, service related. I worked with my brother a ton. He did disaster recovery, and we'll use his as an example. In the disaster recovery space, you can really optimize your revenue and your expenses, your below the line expenses, by focusing on how you're cataloging those offers, those opportunities. So cruising through the parish databases, the county databases, the state databases, the federal databases to see who's looking for bids, who's looking for quote responses. And then, and honestly, there's one system that will do it nationally. It's expensive, but it's worth the money when you know that you're making money. And then you can do a lot on systematizing the way you manage your workforce, how they respond to those bids, how they measure the success in those bids. And what I'm getting at is, like, a lot of this stuff boils down to a tablet. You're taking a guy who does blue collar work, you're putting a tablet in his hand, and now all of a sudden he can go to that roof job and he'll take the specific framed photos of the roof that FEMA needs to pay you out. Or it'll show you exactly where to put the number that FEMA needs, or whatever county or federal agency you're working for. And these things cost money, but they're saving your money and they're allowing your brightest talent to make more money for you and themselves, really, at the end of the day. So I appreciate the loyalty. And honestly, as a leader, I'm always loyal to my team. I feel like my job is there to buffer them from the challenges of leadership above me or the pressures of customers. But you have to be honest about yourself when you're trying to grow from that $5 million to $12 million range. These systems cost money, but they cost a fraction of a $100,000 employee. And one of them, maybe at $40,000 to $60,000 a year, can allow you to empower $300,000 employees, where before you were bringing on this talent and they were just running you crazy. You became the bottleneck. So that's a big one. Don't just shirk it away. Does that make sense? Okay, mistake number 2. At 5 million, you've started to figure this out. You've felt the pain point anyway. Trying to stay the operator is a huge mistake. And I feel bad saying this for a $5 million company, because I see this more at the 1 million to 2 million. And really, if you're sub 1 million, this is your life. Like, you're doing everything. You're booking the calls, taking the sales calls, putting the stuff on your calendar, showing up, doing the assessments. You might even be doing the cleaning gig. I was talking to the guy who runs a cleaning company in Jacksonville. So that's unfortunate. In a $5 million business, though, I'm trying to remember the first startup that I worked for. They were bidding me out at $400 an hour, and we routinely had $400,000 contracts with automakers. So I'm just going to assume that they were $5 to $10 million. I don't think that they had made it to 100 yet. And in those two, they were a tag team founder group couple. It was a guy and a girl, but they weren't a couple. One was a great salesperson, one was a great product guy. They had a chokehold on how the business ran. They were hiring people, to their credit, because again, at 5 million, you have to start figuring this out. You know that you can't do it all by yourself, and all of a sudden you realize, wow, I can pay this guy $500 a week and my life is better. So, but it's still a mistake, is my point. It's still a caution, because if you're like the guy that's 1 million to 5 million with the lighting company, I knew right off the bat, he was trying to do all the recruiting. He wanted to recruit me. He thought I was some EOS, the Entrepreneur Operating System implementer, which, no disrespect to them, but like, I make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year from big companies to run $40 million operations, $700 million operations. So it's just not the same. I'm not a $40,000 implementer. But my point is, he didn't have the perspective and the vision to go see that. So he was trying to figure out who was the right person for every spot. He was trying to figure out all the systems. So he was the sole operator. And for him to get to that 5 million and beyond that 5 million, he would have to let that go. And that's a painful experience. When I first got out of the military, I worked for a guy who ran 3 restaurants, a restaurateur, and he built a crawfish delivery business on top of it. I know it sounds crazy, but it was beautiful because at 50-cent markup per pound, he made a couple $100,000 to $1 million per season. And all it took, and I was making $8 to $10 an hour back then, working 80 hours a week. So it took one guy to run the whole thing. But his restaurants were always in supply of crawfish. Does that make sense? So it was genius on the level that it supported his business, but also he made money with it. But that guy had a death grip, man. Like everyone was always failing him. He thought he could never get the right help. If he ever did, like turn the help over to someone, he found dozens of reasons why they were failing him or why they were robbing him or why it didn't work. So part of this is mentality. If you want to adjust the mentality, reach out to me. We could talk about that just in a very localized central session. If you want to do it for free, we can do it on YouTube together. I'll just publish that. So that's not a huge issue, but you have to shift a couple things the way you think about how you're handing stuff off. Now, the good news is on the other side of it, on the other terrifying side of it, it gets freeing. Like obviously you'll be sitting around one day just talking with your bookkeeper or your lead manager, and you're like, man, I feel like I have nothing to do. So that's a good feeling. I know that sounds scary, but that's where you want to get to. The note here says you can't be a hero anymore. At $5 million, the business can't revolve around you making every decision. And again, sometimes I hate these points because they seem obvious to me, but when I talk to you guys, clearly not everyone's getting the message. So listen to this. Don't try to be the hero. I talk about my experience running the global business with the team of 23 in Sydney, Tokyo, Dublin, and Denver a lot because it forced me to let this go. I couldn't figure out what every single person was doing. So I had managers that managed the direct reports. I had senior managers that managed the managers, and then I had directors that managed the whole region. So building that sort of trust and empowerment and processes to get them working that $40 million to $100 million business by themselves was freeing for me. And a lot of times after I would go through my non-negotiables in the morning, there's another video out there about winning your time back as the founder. Go take a look at that. You'll know what I mean in those first 2 hours. But sometimes I would go through that first 2 hours, and then throughout the day, I'm like, man, I really just need to be here in case something bad happens to one of my managers or directors. And it's the most freeing experience in the world. So mistake number 3, ignoring cultural and leadership depth. So what do we mean here? When you grow fast without leadership depth, this is the insight and the foresight or the emotional intelligence. It's what it's popularly called, to realize what people need, how they're doing, and how to align them on your mission. But when you grow fast without leadership depth, you create a team that's dependent on you and they lack ownership. That's essentially saying you never trusted your team. And I think the Crawfish guy is a good example of that because he built his whole business on restaurant salary workers. So back then that might have been $30,000 to $40,000 a year. And then the hourly help was $8 to $10 an hour. And that was it. You know, he was lucky he found a guy like me. I was in a bad spot then. I just wanted to, it was like 10 hours a day. I wanted to just focus on manual labor. So, but I told him, like, you don't even have to pay me the time and a half for the overtime because I just wanted the whole operation. So I would work like 80 hours a week running this guy's business. And it was a fascinating learning experience, but also I saw that he would kind of never climb himself out of the crab pod or out of the trap that he was in because he could never either not be cheap enough to hire someone worth hiring that had the leadership capacity to help grow his business to the next level, or just personally, he always wanted to be in this sort of negative mire of battle fighting. And that's a thing. And that's a thing for a lot of you guys out there, actually. I mean, be honest with yourself. Some of you just want to show up and swing axes every day, and then you happen to be making $5 million a year doing it. So your staff doesn't like you. Your wife's probably going to divorce you in a year if she hasn't already, and your kids rarely see you. But you know, you found some sort of distraction away from purpose and that grinding. And I would argue that it's not true leadership. It's not building something meaningful and lasting. It's not legacy that you'll ever pass to your children or even a good employee if you think about it. So the solution here really is invest in leadership development. And I'm not talking about man, I'm forgetting all the names today. I'm not talking about a freaking Malcolm Gladwell course. I'm not talking about running some Dale Carnegie course. I'm talking about real space for your highest attitude and aptitude employees to figure stuff out. And I do this. It's hot in this conference room. I don't know why. We'll have to talk to these guys at Haven. I do this even for my direct reports on the lower level now. I've said this a lot. I'll take my quarterly business review slides that are intended for the board of investors or the C-suite, and I'll point that back at them. And I'll ask them open-ended questions. So our goal was $100 million this year. It's June. We're at 45 million, and we know December is always our lightest month. So what does this tell you about how we're tracking for the year? And that might sound like a simple question if you're business-minded, but to them, they had to really think about it. Oh, half the year's over. We're less than half of what we want to accomplish, and one of the months doesn't even count. Okay, great answer. Now, how do you think that the board of investors is going to treat the leadership team here? And then, how do you think the leadership team is going to treat your stakeholders, the people that you're serving, the sales guys essentially? And then, how do you think the sales guys are going to treat you? So, these are questions that I don't want you to answer for them. I just want you to ask them. So let's go to the cleaning business. So let's say he found a guy that was good attitude and aptitude, and he's going to run a little segment for him, maybe his commercial cleaning side. I would sit down with that guy and ask him, okay, so the property manager comes in, the facility manager, and she's looking kind of like concerned at a corner, or she doesn't quite know how to communicate with so-and-so that's in that room. What are your thoughts on that? What's running through her head? Do you feel like she can trust you? Do you feel like she feels comfortable or like she's in good hands? Okay, that should be an obvious answer, hopefully no. All right, so what are things you would do about that? What are meaningful things that are low effort for you that have gigantic impact for her? And it's kind of as simple as go talk to her. So, start putting them in positions where you have controlled damage. I have other things if I'm not at a quarter end and we're nearing a month end, I'll let things break. I'll let some stuff break when other people work on it, because I need them to understand what the cause and effect was. And if you agree with leadership and parenting, it's very similar things. Like in controlled environments, you'll let your kids kind of bump their knee or walk into the edge of the couch, like they need to know that silly games have silly prizes. So little bonus point to help tie all this stuff together. There's a simple little framework that you can put in place. And on the one pager, if you want this, leave me a comment, I'll get it to you. On the one pager, it'll say system, staff, and strategy, because they all have S. But really it's flopping that people, process, and systems that everyone like mutters so quickly without even thinking about, and flipping that on its head. So you need systems first, then you need the people, and then you need the processes that are a result of that. So you can call that system, staff, and strategy if you want a cool marketing term. But on the systems, I'm talking about the actual software that you buy to run your business. And if you're still in a business that can't use software or doesn't use software, you're either 60-something and you're about to retire, or you're doing everything wrong. And if you think that you're some exception, please send me a message. Let's talk. I just want to find out what that business is. Even laundromats are using software nowadays. It's brilliant. All right, the people. Hire for attitude and aptitude. I have done countless videos on this on the shorts. I will do a longer video on it, but you have to focus on constantly bringing in good attitude and good aptitude, and you need backups. And I know that doesn't sound fun, or people don't like to think about people that way, but you need two, and that's expensive for some of you guys, but it will save you money. That first startup that was hard to work with that I was talking about again, I remember there was 3 guys in there, and before the 3 guys, there were 2 girls. Dan and Kim were hard to work with, and again, they were learning, they were growing entrepreneurs, and I get it, it's your baby, it's your millions of dollars, and also there had been this horrible flood in Colorado not long ago, and so one of them had lost her house, and so I remember she told us at some point she decided I could either fight all these insurance claims or I could just double down on the business here and quadruple the money. It's brilliant. It's when you listen to business owners problem solve, it's brilliant. Do more of that. So anyway, two of the girls just didn't show up one day. They were like, deuces. And Dan and Kim had to figure it out. And so then they hired 3 of us. There was 4 of us. One of them resigned. But my point is, you got to build in redundancy. And actually, even me in the $100 million company, I had a manager that was leading a team of 2, and we brought in a consultant to help us kind of do some of this efficiency stuff. She quit, texted me at like 1 in the morning. said some snarky joke and was like, I officially resign. I was like, okay. So, people do that to you, and you're in a different headspace because you're thinking about $5 million to $12 million, and you also understand that a business that makes $5 million, $12 million sometimes can't even pay its founders. These employees don't, man. They'll leave you over $1. So do what you can to hire good attitude and aptitude, and then do what you can to keep them, but also understand that these are revolving doors. You gotta have some redundancy baked in. So if you like this video, I want you to hit like and subscribe. Leave me a comment. Tell me what your biggest challenges are. And if you want to work together on a leadership reset or building in some redundancies, shoot me a comment. We can do them for free. If you want them recorded on YouTube, I'm gonna put them out on YouTube so everyone can see them. Or you can hit me at the landing page and you can reach out to me there, and then we'll connect you. I'll see you in the next one.